Here are 3 true ocean scary stories. Story number 1. The disappearance of the USS Cyclops, the Bermuda Triangle's greatest mystery. In March 1918, the USS Cyclops, a massive U.S. Navy cargo ship carrying more than 300 men and 10,000 tons of manganese, vanished without a trace in the Bermuda Triangle. No distress call was ever sent. No wreckage was ever found. Over a century later, its fate remains one of the greatest maritime mysteries in history. This is the chilling true story of the USS Cyclops, the ship that disappeared into nothingness. The USS Cyclops, a giant of the sea. The USS Cyclops was one of the largest and most powerful ships of its time. It was a 542-foot-long naval collier, designed to transport coal and heavy cargo for the U.S. Navy. Built in 1910, it had a crew of 309 men, including experienced sailors and engineers. The ship was equipped with massive storage compartments to carry military supplies during World War I. It was part of a class of ships called Proteus-class colliers, which had a history of mysterious disappearances. By 1918, the Cyclops had completed many successful voyages, but its next journey would be its last. The fateful voyage, 1918. In February 1918, the USS Cyclops was sent on a mission to Brazil to pick up 10,000 tons of manganese, an essential material for making steel for wartime weapons. On February 16, 1918, the ship left Rio de Janeiro, fully loaded, and began its journey back to the U.S. It made a scheduled stop in Barbados on March 3, 1918, to refuel and restock supplies. On March 4th, the Cyclops departed Barbados, heading for Baltimore, Maryland. It was supposed to arrive in 10 days. It never arrived. The last known communication. Before leaving Barbados, the USS Cyclops sent a brief message to the U.S. Navy, saying, "Weather fair. All well." This would be the last time anyone ever heard from the ship. As the days passed, no distress calls were received. The Cyclops had vanished without a trace. The massive search effort. When the USS Cyclops failed to arrive in Baltimore, the U.S. Navy launched one of the largest search efforts in history. Over 100 ships and aircraft were sent out to search the Atlantic Ocean. The Navy scanned thousands of miles of ocean, looking for debris or lifeboats. No wreckage, no oil slicks, no bodies. Nothing was ever found. The disappearance stunned the world. How could a 542-foot-long naval ship with over 300 men vanish without a single trace? Theories. What happened to the USS Cyclops? With no survivors, no wreckage, and no distress call, historians and experts have spent over 100 years searching for answers. Here are the leading theories behind the disappearance of the USS Cyclops. 1. A German attack? World War I sabotage theory. Since the Cyclops vanished during World War I, some believe it was attacked by German U-boats or spies. Germany was known for using submarines to sink enemy ships. Some reports suggested German spies had infiltrated U.S. ports, possibly sabotaging the Cyclops before it left. Problem with this theory: no German records confirm an attack on the Cyclops. No wreckage, oil slicks, or debris were found, which would have been expected in a torpedo strike. If the ship was attacked, why did no one send a distress call? 2. A structural failure? Overloaded cargo theory. The Cyclops was heavily loaded with 10,000 tons of manganese, which was far more than it was designed to carry. The ship sat lower in the water than usual, making it unstable. Some experts believe a hull crack or sudden structural failure caused the ship to break apart and sink quickly. Problem with this theory: even if the ship broke apart, some debris should have surfaced, but none was ever found. Did the Cyclops sink so fast that no one had time to escape? 3. A giant rogue wave? The freak wave theory. Some believe a giant rogue wave, a sudden, massive wave up to 100 feet high, could have capsized the ship instantly. Rogue waves have sunk large ships before, appearing without warning. A wave of that size could have flipped the Cyclops, causing it to sink in minutes. Problem with this theory: even with a rogue wave, wreckage should have floated to the surface. Could the ocean have swallowed the ship whole? 4. A sudden storm? Weather-related disaster. The Atlantic is known for unpredictable storms, especially in the Bermuda Triangle region. Some believe a powerful storm hit the Cyclops, causing it to capsize or flood quickly. The ship's heavily loaded cargo could have made it unstable, leading to rapid sinking. Problem with this theory: the last message from the Cyclops said, "Weather fair. All well." No reports of major storms in the area were recorded at the time. If there was no storm, then what happened? 5. The Bermuda Triangle? Supernatural theories. The USS Cyclops disappeared within the infamous Bermuda Triangle, a region known for unexplained vanishings. Other ships and planes, including Flight 19 and the SS Marine Sulphur Queen, have also disappeared there. Some believe the Cyclops was pulled into a time vortex, magnetic anomaly, or even taken by extraterrestrials. Problem with this theory: there is no scientific proof that the Bermuda Triangle causes disappearances. Many ships have traveled through the region without incident. Yet, the mystery remains, and the Cyclops is one of the most famous disappearances in Bermuda Triangle history. The legacy of the USS Cyclops. The disappearance of the USS Cyclops left a deep scar on U.S. naval history. It remains the single largest loss of life in the history of the U.S. Navy, not involving combat. The ship's sister vessels, USS Proteus and USS Nereus, also mysteriously vanished in the Atlantic years later. Despite multiple search missions throughout the 20th and 21st centuries, the wreck has never been found. In 2018, the U.S. Navy officially marked the 100-year anniversary of the ship's disappearance, but offered no new answers. Final thoughts: a ship lost in time. Over a century later, the fate of the USS Cyclops remains one of the greatest unsolved maritime mysteries. A massive naval vessel vanished without a trace. No distress call was ever sent. No bodies, no debris, no lifeboats. Nothing was ever found. What happened to the USS Cyclops? Did it sink suddenly due to cargo instability? Was it lost to a rogue wave or storm? Or did it fall victim to the Bermuda Triangle's strange forces? We may never know, but somewhere in the deep Atlantic, the USS Cyclops and its 309 lost souls may still be waiting to be found. Story number 2. The Cursed Ship. The Haunting of the SS Valencia. On a stormy night in 1906, the SS Valencia, a passenger steamship, struck a reef off the coast of Canada. What followed was a nightmare of desperation. People trapped on board, waves swallowing lifeboats, and passengers clinging to the rigging as the sea took them. 136 souls were lost. But years later, sailors and fishermen reported something terrifying. The ghostly image of the SS Valencia still drifting in the fog, its doomed passengers still visible on deck. Was it a lingering spirit of tragedy, or something else? This is the chilling true story of the SS Valencia, the shipwreck that still haunts the sea. The SS Valencia, a steamship of death. The SS Valencia was a 1,598-ton passenger steamer built in 1882. It was designed for coastal routes, frequently traveling between San Francisco and Alaska. The ship had a reputation for being unreliable, often struggling in rough waters. It had lifeboats for all passengers, but no one knew that they would soon become useless. In January 1906, the Valencia embarked on its final voyage, a journey that would end in terror. The fateful voyage, January 20th, 1906. The SS Valencia departed San Francisco on January 20th, 1906, bound for Seattle, Washington. It carried 108 passengers and 65 crew members. The trip should have been uneventful, but the Valencia was sailing into a storm. As the ship moved up the Pacific coast, thick fog rolled in, making navigation dangerous. Then came the storm. Disaster strikes. The Valencia hits a reef. On the night of January 22nd, 1906, the Valencia was caught in violent waves and blinding rain. The ship missed the entrance to the Strait of Juan de Fuca, sailing too close to the rocky coastline of Vancouver Island, Canada. Suddenly, at 11:50 p.m., the Valencia slammed into a hidden reef. The hull was ripped open, and freezing seawater flooded in. The passengers awoke to chaos. The panic begins. As water rushed into the lower decks, Captain Oscar Johnson gave the order to abandon ship. But panic and confusion took over. 1. The lifeboat disaster. The Valencia had 6 lifeboats, enough for everyone on board. But the first lifeboat overturned, throwing everyone into the icy water. The second capsized immediately after launch. One lifeboat was crushed against the side of the ship, killing all inside. In the freezing Pacific waters, passengers screamed for help as they were dragged under by the waves. Of the first 3 lifeboats launched, all were lost. 2. The passengers' final moments. As dawn broke on January 23rd, 1906, the Valencia was still stuck on the reef, battered by waves. Women and children huddled together, praying for rescue. Some climbed the rigging, desperate to escape the rising waters. Others held onto the deck, waiting for help that never came. By the morning of January 24th, the ship began to break apart. With one final wave, the ocean swallowed the Valencia whole, taking 136 lives with it. The survivors, a few lived to tell the tale. Out of 173 people, only 37 survived. Some swam to shore and were rescued by indigenous people living nearby. Others were picked up by rescue boats. But for the passengers trapped on the Valencia, no help ever came. The haunting begins. Ghost sightings of the Valencia. After the wreck, strange reports began to surface. Fishermen and sailors swore they saw the Valencia still drifting, even though it had sunk. 1. The ghost ship, 1910s, 1930s. Several ships passing near the wreck site reported seeing a phantom version of the Valencia. They described shadowy figures standing on the deck, staring silently into the night. Some even claimed to hear the distant screams of drowning passengers. Was the Valencia doomed to sail forever as a ghost ship? 2. The lifeboat that reappeared 27 years later. One of the most terrifying discoveries happened in 1933. A Valencia lifeboat was found floating off Vancouver Island, perfectly preserved, as if no time had passed. The boat had no damage, no decay, and looked like it had just been launched. Had the ocean returned it from the depths? Why was the Valencia so haunted? Theories and legends. For over 100 years, the SS Valencia has remained one of the most haunted shipwrecks in history. Here are some possible explanations for the ghostly sightings. 1. The trapped souls theory. Many believe the spirits of the drowned passengers never left. They died in terror, clinging to the ship as it sank. Their souls are trapped, forever repeating their final moments. This theory could explain why the ghostly Valencia is still seen in the fog. 2. The energy imprint theory. Some believe extreme emotions can leave an imprint on a place. The terror, panic, and suffering of the Valencia's passengers may have left an energy echo. When conditions are right, the ship replays its tragic end, appearing to those who pass by. Could this explain why sailors still hear the screams of the drowning? 3. The time loop theory. Some paranormal researchers believe time can fold over itself in places of great tragedy. The Valencia may exist in two states, both sunk and still sailing in another timeline. Those who see it may be witnessing a ghostly overlap between past and present. Is the Valencia caught in an endless cycle, forever doomed to repeat its wreck? The mystery of the Valencia lives on. To this day, the SS Valencia remains one of the most haunted shipwrecks in history. Sailors still avoid the wreck site, fearing they might see the ghost ship appear from the mist. Some believe the souls of the lost passengers still call for help, trapped in the cold waters of the Pacific. More than a century later, the legend of the Valencia refuses to die. Final thoughts: a ship lost to time, or not? The wreck of the SS Valencia was one of the most horrific maritime disasters in history. 136 people perished, their bodies never recovered. The ship vanished beneath the waves, but its ghostly presence remains. To this day, some say the Valencia still sails, a shadow in the fog, doomed to forever drift along the Pacific coast. Was it just a tragic accident? Or is the Valencia truly haunted, forever reliving its final night? One thing is certain: if you ever find yourself sailing near Vancouver Island on a foggy night, keep an eye on the water, because you might just see the ghost ship of the Valencia sailing silently into the mist. Story number 3. The vanishing of the SS Wrada, the Titanic of the South that disappeared without a trace. In 1909, the SS Wrada, a massive luxury liner, set sail from South Africa to Australia. It carried 211 passengers and crew. It was last seen sailing into a storm. And then nothing. No distress calls. No reiki. No survivors. Over a century later, its fate remains one of the greatest maritime mysteries of all time. This is the chilling, true story of the SS Wrada, the Titanic of the South that vanished forever. The SS Wrada, a ship built for grandeur and glory. The SS Wrada was built in 1908 by the Blue Anchor Line, a company specializing in luxury passenger ships for long-distance voyages. It was 465 feet long and weighed 9,339 tons, a massive ship for its time. It was designed for the London to Australia route, carrying both wealthy passengers and cargo. With 2 grand decks, a luxurious dining hall, and first-class cabins, it was called the Titanic of the South. 3 years before the actual Titanic was built, it was equipped with watertight bulkheads, making it nearly unsinkable, or so people believed. But despite its majestic appearance, the Wrada had one dangerous flaw, a flaw that some believe led to its disappearance. The fateful voyage, 1909, a ship doomed from the start. On July 26, 1909, the SS Wrada departed from Durban, South Africa, heading toward Cape Town. It was on its return journey to England after a successful trip to Australia. On board were 211 people, 92 passengers, and 119 crew members. The ship was carrying a mix of wealthy travelers and migrants returning home. It was supposed to be a routine voyage. Instead, it would become one of the greatest unsolved disappearances in maritime history. The last sightings. The Wrada sails into the unknown. As the Wrada left Durban, everything seemed normal. The ship had already completed one successful journey from London to Australia. Its captain, Joshua Ilbery, was experienced, having sailed for over 30 years. The passengers had no reason to suspect anything was wrong. Then, on July 27, 1909, something strange happened. First warning: a dangerous instability. Before departing, one of the passengers, Claude Sawyer, a British engineer, sent a chilling message to his wife. He had noticed something unusual about the Warada. He claimed the ship felt top-heavy and unstable in rough seas. He had a bad feeling that something terrible was going to happen. He got off the ship in Durban just before it vanished. His decision saved his life. Final communication. The Warada is spotted, then disappears. On July 27, 1909, the Warada was spotted by the crew of the SS Clan McIntyre, another ship sailing the same route. The Warada was traveling at full speed toward Cape Town. Everything seemed normal, and the two ships exchanged friendly signals. But after that moment, the Warada was never seen again. The search begins. The ocean swallows a giant. When the Warada failed to arrive in Cape Town, people assumed it was just delayed by bad weather. But days turned into weeks, and the ship was nowhere to be found. The British government launched one of the largest search efforts in naval history. Multiple ships scoured the Indian Ocean, searching thousands of miles of coastline. No wreckage, no lifeboats, no bodies. Nothing was ever found. It was as if the Warada had been erased from existence. Theories. What happened to the Warada? For over a century, historians, sailors, and conspiracy theorists have tried to explain what happened. Here are the most debated theories. 1. A giant freak wave sank it instantly. The Indian Ocean is known for massive rogue waves, giant walls of water that can appear without warning. A wave up to 100 feet high could have hit the Warada, flipping it upside down instantly. If this happened, the ship would have sunk in minutes, leaving no time for a distress call or lifeboat launch. Supporting evidence. Other ships have been destroyed by rogue waves in the same region. The Warada was top-heavy, meaning it could have flipped more easily. Flaws in this theory. No debris was ever found. If a wave hit the Warada, some wreckage should have surfaced. 2. The ship capsized due to a fatal design flaw. Some believe the Warada was doomed from the start due to unstable design. The ship was top-heavy, meaning it rolled dangerously in rough seas. It may have flipped over in a storm, trapping passengers inside. If the ship capsized, it could have sunk so quickly that no one escaped. Supporting evidence. Claude Sawyer, the engineer who left the ship, warned that it was unstable. Survivors of its first voyage reported dangerous tilting in rough waters. Flaws in this theory. Even if it capsized, lifeboats or debris should have been found. 3. An underwater trench swallowed it whole. The Warada was sailing over the Agulhas Trench, a deep ocean canyon over 19,000 feet deep. If the ship sank in one piece, it could have descended into the trench, where wreckage would be impossible to find. No search missions have ever reached the depths of the trench. Supporting evidence. The ocean floor in this area is extremely deep and largely unexplored. Flaws in this theory. Even in deep water, some debris usually floats to the surface. 4. A mysterious explosion or fire. Could the Warada have suffered a catastrophic explosion? Some believe a boiler failure or coal fire could have caused the ship to burn or explode suddenly. If the fire was intense enough, it could have destroyed the ship before anyone could escape. Supporting evidence. Ships in the early 1900s often suffered from coal dust explosions. Flaws in this theory. No debris or burned wreckage was ever found. 5. A supernatural or time travel disappearance. Some believe the Warada never sank at all, but vanished into another dimension. Could it have entered a time vortex or been taken by unknown forces? Some sailors claim to have seen a ghostly Warada drifting in the mist years later. Supporting evidence. The total lack of wreckage is bizarre. A ghost ship sightings have been reported in the region. Flaws in this theory. No scientific evidence supports supernatural disappearances. Final thoughts. The Warada's fate remains unknown. More than 100 years later, the SS Warada remains one of the greatest maritime mysteries in history. 211 lives were lost, and not a single body was found. Despite multiple search missions, the wreck has never been located. Some believe the ship is still out there, hidden in the depths. Will we ever find the Titanic of the South? Or will the Warada remain lost forever, swallowed by the sea? Perhaps, somewhere in the vast Indian Ocean, the ship still waits to be discovered. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more stories.